it's Flo, and this is my impression of me arguing with an old-timey Southern lawyer in a courtroom. Objection! You can't show my client's rates to your customers! We compare our Progressive Direct rate and our competitors' rates in one place, so shopping is easier. Only showing your rate when it's lowest. Slander in the court of law! No, we show our rate even when Progressive isn't the lowest. I rest my case! Move to adjourn for snack time!
Compare rates and save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations.
Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It is Friday night, and you are listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Lucy Liebfried in Chicago. You are... You are listening to one of the highest-rated paranormal radio shows on Blog Talk. No bull, no lies, just a true platform for everyone to share their knowledge and experiences. When searching for the truth, good communication is key. Now, due to the limited time with our guest tonight, we won't be taking any callers, but our chat room is open, so you can type in your questions or comments as we will be checking them during the show. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Paranormal Review Radio. You'll find more articles, blogs, and full show uploads. And if you have specific questions, comments, or would like to be a guest on the show, email us at paranormal.review@aol.com. Now, sit back, get comfy, and prepare to open your minds. It's time for Paranormal Review Radio.
All right, kids, how does a hyper kid that grew up in New England, born into a normal family with a mom, dad, and sister, member of a middle school swim team in which he broke the national record for 50-yard freestyle, horror movie fanatic, and class clown, grow up to be a national icon from one of the most infamous paranormal television shows, an executive producer, author, speaker, singer, director, filmmaker, and gym fitness owner, let alone an adored father of two and loving husband? Well, some may say luck, but I'm sure our guest tonight will say hard work, dedication, and tons of support from family and friends. It's amazing that our guest has time to be on our show tonight, so I won't get into a long intro. You all know him from Ghost Adventures. You've heard his music on his album The Other Side. You've seen his work behind the scenes in his newest show, Ghost Stalkers, on the Destination America channel, and maybe you've had a real workout session at his gym, Drive Health and Fitness, in Methuen, Massachusetts. I'm talking about none other than the man himself, Nick Groff. Please help me in welcoming Mr. Nick Groff to the show. Hey, Nick, thanks for stopping by tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate it. That was a super nice intro you guys did for me. Thanks. I never saw myself as that many things, but it's really funny. Love it.
Well, hi, Nick. Welcome. Long time no see.
I know.
The last time that we saw you was like maybe Mansfield, and I think that was like 3 or 4 years ago. But, I just got tired hearing Anthony mention all of your credits and work in the intro. So how do you find the time to do everything and be a family man?
I don't know. I really don't. To be honest, sometimes I drive myself crazy. I think it's one of those things where it's like I look at life as, as you step forward in time and you're thinking about all these things you want to do or things you just want to go after. And I'm one of those guys when I say I'm going to do something, I go 100% and do it. but it's the passion for doing it. It's not just doing it because of, you know, the money or this or that. It's doing it because you really solely want to do it. And that's the purpose in life for me, is I have certain things that I actually want to accomplish and do, which has drove me to do certain things in my life, which obviously you guys mentioned a lot of them. But I think it's just, you know, it's the passion of living, it's the passion of understanding, and we're all on this quest, a journey that we're all walking in our own shoes. And I think it's really interesting how we can kind of step forward and just look at that for a second and just say, wow, what's the purpose of all of us being here, you know, on this planet, in these bodies, in this energy form, and so on. And I find that just fascinating. And I think that's what really drives me to question certain things. And that's why I do what I do. I love the paranormal. I love just interesting topics where I can sit down and, like, really just think and speak to other people and have, like, deep conversations about theories and stuff. Not everything is correct and we don't have all the answers, but it's interesting to talk about it. And that's what I love about this life, especially in my shoes and what I'm doing.
Well, I will tell you, you have been an absolute inspiration for me. But I want to get right into some of the questions because I know we don't have that much time. And if we're all over the place with the questions, please forgive us, okay? But we've had many people ask us if we could ask this next question. And if you don't want to answer it, we will completely understand. But a lot of people, including myself, have always wondered what made you decide to leave Ghost Adventures and begin this amazing career on your own.
Sure, yeah, no, I get it. I get the question every single day since it's been announced. It's totally fine. I think, you know what, I'm a positive person, and I'll leave it at that. And I think there's just certain things in life that you have to step forward, and you find stepping stones. And obviously it's through hard and good times or whatever it is where you came from. You just have to look at that from outside the box and think about certain things that you want to do in life. And, you know, it's just kind of one of those moments in my kind of threshold where I have to cross over and just say there's certain things that I want to get to, that I want to actually kind of go after, and, you know, more interesting topics and stuff like that I want to conquer and whatnot. So it's just one of those things where I'm at my part where I have a lot of things that I want to go after as far as paranormal goes and learn a lot more. So I'm just in that moment of doing that in my life. So it's very positive. I mean, I'm happy. I'm extremely happy right now, and I'm really focused. And it's probably the best move for me personally right now. And I'm working on probably more things than I was working on when I was there. So it's absolutely awesome. It has to do with the love of paranormal investigating that I'm doing right now. And just, like, I feel like I'm rooted. You know, like that first part, like when I was doing the documentary back in the days, and it was just, you know, me and other guys out there, and we're just doing it. Like, that's what I feel like. It's that rush of, you know, here I am in a haunted location. I'm trying to investigate and communicate with spirits or try to understand what else is out there, you know, by maturing through the years and understanding where I came from to where I am now. And now I'm in that focus point of, wow, I want to go even deeper. I want to get a little bit more involved or learn new things or try different things. You know, it's the evolution of just understanding yourself and understanding what you can experiment with and connect with as an individual into the paranormal world. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life right now. And, you know, obviously there's so much more to it, but to sum it up in a positive manner, that's, you know, that's my life, to speak on that topic.
Well, Nick, you mentioned, you know, doing the ghost hunts and going into these locations now. Does it feel different going to haunted locations without having, you know, that pressure of doing something for television or having, you know, those cameras focused on you for the simple fact of putting it on air and on television? Does it feel different going in there? Do you feel maybe back to basics the way it was before, or is it change for you after, you know, the whole television hype?
No, not at all. I think it's still, for me personally, just speaking of myself, it's still the same for me, because whatever you saw me as, either on TV or off TV, and anybody who knows me on, like, the tours that they've been coming to, or anybody who's investigated with me and all the other people that I've met on my journey, I'm the same guy. So there's no two ultra egos going on. You know, there's not this this dude you see on TV and then this other dude you see off TV. I'm the same guy. I'm rooted. I know where I came from, and I'm that individual who maintains that. I love the raw, the gritty fashion of what I always set out purposely to shoot and do as far as paranormal goes, and that's what I'm still doing. So, you know, I'm just doing what I love to do, is the honest truth, and I won't stop. You know what I mean? Nothing can stop me from doing what I love to do in my life, and that's investigating and speaking and connecting with people and just trying to figure out answers to, you know, more than just dying and life and stuff like that.
I can vouch for that, Nick, because we've been on, Lucy and I have been with you on several investigations, and you are completely the same. You are that rooted guy. You are that passionate guy when it comes to the paranormal. We've seen it, you know, with our own eyes. So I can definitely vouch for that. And, you know, after everything, you've authored a book, Chasing Spirits. And I found the book to be really amazing. And you wrote that the single most, and you've talked about this too, the single most frightening moment in your paranormal life and the most significant moment in time that changed your life had to do with Linda Vista and the female spirit that you saw. What made that point so significant for you, and what has it changed for you?
The spirit that I saw at Linda Vista Hospital? Yeah, it was...
Yeah.
It was something that I wasn't ready for. I mean, it was one of those instances that you turn around and boom, something jumps out at you in the dark. Number one, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack, like the old urban legend where your hair turns gray and, you know, your heart jumps out of your chest, and that's it. It felt like that. It literally did for that split second when I turned around and I saw that female spirit looking at me, and I knew she saw me and I saw her. It was that connection for that split second. And I knew all the details. The one thing that stood out more than anything is this hospital gown where she had these little flower patterns on her hospital gown that kind of looked like it dated back, you know, prior to the 80s or whatever, 70s. And the interesting thing is later we spoke to a nurse there who used to work there, and she said that the doctors and the nurses would see this spirit. Same thing where I had a sketch artist draw what I saw, and they used to experience this lady popping up in the trauma center room and then just disappearing. So it's really interesting, and that moment has stuck with me forever. I mean, it was so vivid that I knew it wasn't my eyes playing tricks on me. I knew I saw a solid figure in that moment, and I don't know why it connected with me. And I think that's what kind of just pushed me even harder as the years went on after that experience. I mean, I usually go home and I block it off, right? When I leave locations throughout the years, I really don't talk about it too much, like family and stuff like that. And sometimes we get into topics of just life and theorizing and stuff like that and some of my experiences. But that was an instant where I actually went home and I called my father, which I never really do to talk about paranormal, you know what I mean? And I called my dad and I started telling him, like, just vividly about this experience. And he's like, okay, yeah, like... And he just, like, absolutely believed me because it was one of those moments where I was just, like, so just involved in what happened. You know what I mean? So it has stood with me forever. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that I talk about with everybody. And I talked to, it was funny, I was hanging out with some other people tonight, and this other lady, she was working at a hospital, and she was telling me about an experience, too, where she actually came in early to the hospital, and she saw this patient come out in the hallway and trying to wave at her. And she was like, she was saying that the guy was waving at her and then he walked back into his room. So she went down there to see him, and she radios the other nurse to go in there because she saw the guy waving at him like he needed help or something. And she says when they went in there, the other nurse is like, oh, you just got here? Yeah, that guy's been passed away for the last 2 hours. He's actually dead. And she's like, what? No, he was just out here waving. So she's telling me about this experience at the hospital that she experienced, and I was telling her about my Linda Vista experience where I saw the spirit. So there's more people out there in this world that have had experiences of seeing solid figures that you would think are living but are actually passed away. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's very fascinating to me, especially when you experience something and you can connect with somebody else who has had a similar experience. I think that's what makes this whole topic interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
I want to ask you about that. You know, you've been to many of the most haunted locations in the world. And with all the experiences that you've had at this point in your life, what do you feel the word paranormal means?
Everything. I think it's anything that is like unexplainable. The problem is science doesn't like to pinpoint and put stuff, like these are words that we create because we don't understand things. And sometimes when we don't understand things, it scares us, right? But I feel that science is getting more involved in this, and I feel that, like, look, we're landing on comets right now. We're talking about penetrating through wormholes and black holes and all this crazy, like, stuff that nobody would thought would actually possibly happen. It was too futuristic, like movies, but we're actually doing it. So time travel and all this other, like, theories and, you know, actually time traveling and possibly being us in the future coming back, and that's what we label as ghosts because we don't necessarily understand it yet. You know, I think those are the stuff that's evolving as the future progresses, and this is what we call paranormal right now in this moment. But what is paranormal in the future? It could be as realistic as what science calls something else right now, like turning the switch on a light on and off where it creates light, you know, electricity and whatnot. So it's something, you know, that's how I look at things. I break them down into weird theories instead of breaking them down into like simple things right now, because you have to think deep. I think once we close that door and we put ourselves in a box, that's when it becomes four corners, and that's what it is, four corners. But if we look at it differently, where we penetrate those four corners down, it becomes evolution of, like, you know, where you just, like, the universe or the outer space or just something that's groundbreaking, that's different, that you can think a little different. And that's kind of what, you know, I feel paranormal is evolving into.
Well, another thing I want to ask you, what do you feel about the negative that seems to fascinate most people? I mean, everyone seems to want to know about demons. They want to know about being scratched or possessed. Is this really healthy?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of like a fad. You know, it's like what clothing line is in right now, which is kind of, you know, it's funny to me, but I think it's because it gets overpopulated, you know, with movies and stuff like that and topics. But I do, you know, the problem is, though, is, yes, it's such a, like, an heightened topic because, you know, it's like turning on the news. What's good on the news every day? Really nothing, because the news is negative half the time, right? So for some reason, us as humans get attracted to negative things. And I don't know why, but, you know, it's like, let's go see a horror movie. I love horror movies. What's the fascination of, like, seeing negative horror movies? It's just the fascination of, like, hitting some nerve, like being scared or being frightened or like, oh my God, I would never do that, you know what I mean? Or that's horrific. You know, it's those buttons that push in our body that kind of trigger something to make us think a little bit deeper. And I think we get attracted to it sometimes. I'm a wicked positive individual, and I just, you know, I've been in negative situations. I've lived a life, you know, a crazy life. And it's one of those things that if you don't focus and you don't have a positive mentality and put yourself where you're grounded, you can really lose sight, you know, of what it is, what this whole purpose is, and what you need to be set out to do. And I just want to set my stamp, my name, who I am, have a generation, you know, after me, my kids and all that stuff follow in that mentality of I'm a positive person. I don't want to be remembered as something negative, you know. So it's like, yes, I've been to negative locations. Yes, I've been to horrific, like, situations like that where I've put myself in. But it's to try to document and try to discover and figure out, you know, what else is out there. But these situations, I always go in now with a different perspective. I go in with, like, a positive mentality of, you know, I'm not going to go in there screaming at spirits or whatever. I'm going to go in there trying to communicate and trying politely, unless you start getting, like, feeling negative from the attachments or, like, getting, you know, obviously scratched or something like that, where it goes above and beyond, where you think something is negative. But I just think it's the fascination, honestly. But, you know, the one thing that took me a long time to try to figure out what I'm actually scared about is because that's my problem. Is I tell a lot of people, I was telling this a lot at conferences I've been doing, it's probably one of the hardest things for me is I really don't fear anything. except for probably like failing or something. That's something I'm really passionate about doing. But the other thing is like I fear like negative energies. And the reason why I say that is because I've had negative experiences with negative energies where it's like I fear being overtaken or whatever psychologically, like just losing yourself. You know what I mean? And it's like the clash of your energy, your aura, your positivity, that you're going in a location, this negative, just bad kind of like sinister energy just kind of lingers on you, and it has that effect. And I've been in those situations, and that's why I fear it, because you're fighting it. You know what I mean? It's really hard to describe if you haven't experienced it, but it's like a fight against good and evil inside your body that you're living in. It's really weird. That's one thing I kind of fear.
Are you talking about sort of possession or sort of oppression type of negative?
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, I didn't necessarily believe in possession. The thing is that I didn't believe in it because I never experienced that situation. I've seen all the Exorcist movies and all the, like, fictionalized stories on the topics of possession and whatnot.
Right.
But, like, the Moon River Brewery, when I filmed there at Savannah, Georgia, that was, like, an instance where I just really lost myself, and I felt like this negative kind of entity. I felt I opened myself up too much where I let go of my mind and my spirit, where something else kind of, like, grasped a hold of me mentally. And in that moment, it's not like possession or anything like that we know of, these words. It was more like just kind of losing yourself and blacking out for a second in some sense, but you still are conscious of some of your thoughts. And what was happening is I heard the words like in my head, like kill him, kill him, kill him. But I was like kind of blank and zoned out, where it's like you connect with this other thing that's there, this other energy, and it's like you lose track of time until I snapped out of it, obviously. And then what blew me away is the evidence that revolved around that. So it wasn't just like me kind of like going crazy. It was like we were actually capturing a voice, the shadow figure behind me, and all that other stuff that happened. So it was like, some of that helped validate me to understand it, because I'm such a logical thinker that I have to, like, either, A, experience it firsthand or actually hear it with my ears or see it, one of those things. So
yeah.
I just get nervous about negative energies. It's the world we live in, I guess. Even look at our world. It's like you have good and bad people, and good and bad people die. It's like, look at all these prisons and murderers and killers and stuff like that. I mean, you got to think that some of their energy is lingering around at some of these locations that we're going to, and we probably are making contact with a lot of that. That's the problem. We don't know who we're communicating with.
Well, how do you prepare yourself for something like that? How do you personally prepare yourself? Because you seem to be sort of anxious and worried that could happen to you as you're walking into that location. Do you psychologically do anything in your mind to sort of get yourself ready, or put up the armor internally as you're walking through that door? Is there anything that you do?
I try not to psych myself out, which back in the day I would just go into a location, but that was me, young, naive, like whatever, going in and all right, investigating. That was me. Right. But like I said, until you have experiences and you say, wait a second, and you have these things happening to you personally, and I'm not talking about like for TV or anything like that. I'm talking about aftermath, like at your house, just certain things that you start being aware of in certain instances and certain experiences that start, hitting you on a different level. Those are the things that you start getting a little bit more cautious and aware of. Okay, I have to be more alert, and just think about when you leave a location, what's going to happen, And I feel that I've had a lot of negative attachments, and that's why a long time ago, when we were talking about Bobby Mackey's, and I said I never want to go back into Bobby Mackey's again and all that stuff. And then, last year, I said to everyone, never say never in life, because I went back to Bobby Mackey's, but for other reasons, because I felt like I was more focused. But 3 years ago, I wasn't ready to go back there because I just felt like I was in a negative place with this, like, just dark cloud over my head, and I felt if I went there, it would make it worse, So
sure.
that's just the stuff that worries me and the stuff that I just get more aware of. So when I go into locations, I approach it differently. I'm more focused now. I'm mentally zoned in on certain energies and stuff, and I just put myself out there, but I know how to close it off now too when I leave. And that's just me in general, like the way I like to investigate now. And I'm more I guess you could say polite in certain ways of how I communicate, where I'm not as super aggressive as I possibly could have been, but I'm still me, you know what I mean? I've never changed who I am because I feel like you don't have to. I just feel like there's different tactics that you can do that you'll get better results and better outcomes. And just me personally is what I do because I've matured and I understand it now and I've had experiences. And I go in, but yes, I block it off. And for the first time recently, I actually used sage because I felt like I still had this like kind of dark, like from a location that I went to, I felt like this like negative kind of like feeling was still on me, you know what I mean? It just felt dirty, so I saged my whole house for the first time and myself. And I'll tell you what, it was the weirdest feeling because I felt just like lifted, like just kind of like, dirt is lifted off your shoulders in a weird spiritual way, where it's
relieved.
Like all these good, relieved, and it felt like cleansed, and all these good things just started happening in my life. It was really weird. So yeah, man, I totally believe in like that stuff now because of the experience I went through.
Well, you've talked about how much passion you have, and if you haven't figured it out, Lucy and I sort of get a little bit more deeper into things, like how you talked about, you sort of break things down and get deeper. So honestly, at this point, can you say without hesitation that you know what happens when we die?
I don't. I wish I did.
Okay.
I wish I had that answer. I have theories. I have really good theories, but I don't have every answer because I think it's multi-layer. I don't think it's as simple as one direct answer back. I think there's so many different scenarios because of the experiences and because of the people I've talked to that I really trust, that have had like really great, profound experiences, Like you can get into like near-death experiences, people that actually talk about, the typical seeing the light and all that stuff, and talk about profound experiences of having like outer body, where they see their whole body and they float through the sky and all that stuff. And then you can talk to people who've had negative experiences. And it's just one of those things that there's so many different layers and so many different theories out there that I really don't know what the right one is. But I think we're getting closer. I think we're starting to understand certain things a little bit more in pinpointing like different paranormal experiences with certain topics. But I think there's other things that are just way beyond like dimensional, multi-dimensional layers that we don't fully understand yet, which, I believe we're in one of those dimensions, and it's weird,
Absolutely,
well,
yeah.
Nick, besides everything Anthony listed that you're doing now, you've also embarked on the new Nick Groff tour at Haunted Locations. Your first event with the tour was at Bobby Mackey's. What was that like? I mean, you kind of talked about how, you felt the negative there and it had bothered you. What was it like going back into that place?
To be honest, I was a little nervous. Especially my wife, Veronica, was really nervous for me going back. She always said when I came back from there, I would be like changed, like just different. And I felt like I was ready, and I was the number one thing. I hate going through life and saying I don't ever want to do that, or I don't ever want to go there, or whatever, because that's not how I want to live my life. So that was one of my main purposes why I went back there, was basically to experience this stuff on my own, to answer some of my own questions, to kind of put that to rest. So that was the reason why I did it. And I actually went in there and I apologized too, hoping that would help, whatever I did in the past, and it was really emotional, like emotional roller coaster ride for me, because it was one of those moments where I walked in and everything was fine. I met everyone. It was exciting, it was all that excitement upstairs on the first floor. And then my good friend Johnny Yell John Tenney was there, and we went down to the basement, and him and I walked in, and I look at him, and we're walking back to, the room of faces in the back near where the well is and stuff, and I stop and I look at him and I go, I feel really weird right now. Like, I just feel like I get goosebumps talking about it right now. It was just that moment of, holy crap, you know what I mean? This feels different. And that was my moment of, okay, should I do this? And, then I sucked it up, obviously, and I just proceeded forward, and that's just me, trying to act tough and stuff and be like, all right, let's do this. But, you got to question yourself, and you got to question yourself in those moments because, when you have experiences and you go back to a location where you've had mainly negative experiences, it's one of those things that you don't want that to happen again. And it's not like, hopefully, from my experience, I'm not going to get tossed across the room. I'm still waiting for that to happen, where I get dragged across the room or something. That would be epic. It's more of like the aftermath when I leave, and you just have weird things following you home. But you know what? There was 2 different moments to me at Bobby Mackey's. It was awesome because Bobby Mackey and I sat down for a while and we talked. He is the absolute coolest guy. His whole staff is amazing. All of us had a great time with them. They're absolutely amazing. The paranormal group that runs that facility is like top notch. Everyone's really cool over there, and we all had a good time. And then there was moments where I captured like voices that were just blowing people away. Even a skeptic that was there was blown away. I captured a voice. I set the recorder on a chair because, he was like, hey, couldn't you be shuffling the recorder or anything? I'm like, yeah, sure, anything's possible, but I have nothing to prove, obviously, and I know I'm not doing anything. I'm like, here, I'll put it on the chair. So I sat on the chair, and everyone's on the edge of their seat, and we're all just in the dark listening. It was dead silent. And I asked the question, like, you like it when the band or Bobby Mackey plays music here up on stage. And I picked the recorder up, and when we were playing it back, everyone's listening, and we got a voice come through clear as day. It says, I like it when the band plays. It was, like, amazing. So I brought it up to the dude, and I was like, you hear this voice? And he was like, no, I hear that. I definitely hear that. So I'm like, I don't know what to say. You know what I mean? It was like those moments to like a flip 180. Then we're in the basement, and I'm doing another recording session with a couple of guys, and we're there, and it just like totally flipped negative. And then suddenly I felt like this energy just rushed the room, like this invisible like man just rushed up into my face, like it felt that aggressive. And I felt my whole hand just go cold, and I'm holding the recorder, and I'm like, I'm not telling these people because I don't want to put thoughts in their head, but I know what I'm feeling. And I'm feeling this like mass coldness come over my whole arm and just shoot through me with goosebumps. And then I see this guy get pushed forward, like off the wall, like he just flies forward, and I saw him, and then I stop the recorder, and I play it back, and I hear the most aggressive kind of negative voice, sinister, go, I forget the question about like who's the negative spirit that's haunting this location, I think is what I asked, and you hear clear as day say, Scott Jackson, and it's the guy who was hungry.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So that is like a total flip 180, but that's that location. That is Bobby Mackey's Music World. That's like it can be one moment of like peaceful, and you can connect with like Pearl or Johanna, which we did too, and then it can be total negative, and it's like it feels aggressive, and you feel like, oh my God, all right, let's stop what we're doing and move out of this room. And I think I actually said that to them. And then someone started getting like provoking, and I just said I wouldn't do that because the outcome's going to be really bad. And then they stopped and we left, And then I heard a lot of people talking about things happened to them when they left that location. So that's Bobby Mackey's. That's my story. But I felt closure. I really did. When I left that location, I felt like I could move on with my life, okay? I felt like content, you know what I mean? Where it's like another chapter kind of closed in my book or whatever.
You had closure.
Right.
Yeah. I need that. Sometimes you need that closure. That's why you need to do certain things. And that's why I told people, never say never. And I learned my lesson, never say you're never going to do something again because it's just like the whole karma thing,
Do you have? I mean, you've gone on these the Nick Groff tour, and you've gone to these locations. So you've been around a lot of either experienced investigators or maybe newbies, people who've just come out for the first time. Do you have any advice for investigators? I mean, maybe is there anything, any tips that maybe you received that maybe you wished you had when you first started?
Yeah, I think number one, listen to your body, because that is the best advice I can give. Your body is like the most sensitive thing, or whatever, however you connect. You have to really learn what you connect with best when you're paranormal investigating. And I would say have an open mind. Like, absolutely be logical. Not everything in this world is paranormal, right? There's old buildings creak, pipes expand. Like, there's all sorts of things that like can make noises and can be just natural causes. And I think we have to put aside where everything is paranormal, like pictures too. You know what I mean? Not everything is orbs or any of that stuff like everyone thought 10 years ago or whatever. So it's like just you have to be open-minded though, because yes, paranormal is happening all around us. We just don't see it all the time because we work in our everyday life, 9-to-5 jobs or whatever we do during the day. And sometimes we're unaware. But I think certain situations you have to be aware, like if you're paranormal investigating at a haunted location, you've done your research, really, really dig deep on that research and learn it first before you go in to communicate, so you understand possibly some of the things like, spirits or whatever, or names that could be actually haunting the locations. And then I would say try to give pauses in your question, in between your questions. I think that's the number one thing I see all the time is people rapidly, just start asking every question in their mind that comes to thought. It's like, what's your name? Why are you here? Who are you? What year you got? It's all the typical questions. But imagine like you and I talking right now, and you start asking me questions, and you just keep asking me 5 questions at once. I don't know which one to answer first. So it's like the same scenario, you know what I mean? You gotta really give those pauses, like you're really speaking with somebody, and you have to zone in and connect with that whatever is there, if anything is there. And then it's like, look at your evidence, analyze it. But the most caution thing I would say is just be careful. Be careful of what you communicate with or what you're doing, because like I said, that that negative kind of lingering energy does exist, and it is out there at locations, and that's what you have to be cautious with when you're doing this stuff.
Great advice.
Well, Nick, I have one last question. A little birdie told me that you are working on another television series in which you may be on as well. So we might be seeing you on the tube very soon. Is this true? And can you give us a little hint or reveal the name of the show? Anything?
I can't tell you what it is, and I can't say the name or anything like that because I was told not to, and that's just standard network things. But yes, I will be back on. I've been honestly filming nonstop. I'm working on several new projects. I think I lost count. I was like producing 4 shows that are a lot of them are paranormal related, and then I'm working on 2 that I will be on camera, and I'm hosting them and stuff like that, investigating and all that stuff. I'm really excited. Honestly, it's going to be amazing. So one of them's my baby. It's like I call it my second baby because I always leave it with my first baby, and this like second baby, I'm like taking up the second notch in paranormal. I really feel like it's going to be groundbreaking. What I'm going to do and push the boundaries like to the next level. It's going to be amazing. So I'm wicked psyched about it. I've been working on it for a long time. But that one is a work in progress. And then the one I'm actually doing right now, I'm at a secret location I can't talk about. I feel like I'm in Men in Black, like I'm at Area 51 or something. I can't talk about it. I hate like clearance. It's like I know. I wish I could just stay, but I can't. But yeah. So I'm excited. I'm gonna announce soon. We'll be announcing, the next little bit coming up. I'm trying to think of what month we're in right now. June.
June.
Really, I've been so like this nonstop. It's crazy.
Well, Nick, we know you're busy, and we'd love to talk more, but we all want to thank you for taking time to come on the show and just share a little insight into the real Nick Groff. Now, we know you have some upcoming event tours on nickgrofftour.com. July 11th, you're going to be at Penhurst Asylum, which is an amazing place. And August 28th to 29th, you'll be at Virginia City, Nevada. Are these still available to buy tickets?
Penhurst is sold out right now. That's been sold out for a while. What we do is every location, we work really hard. I work with Lee Kirkland, Jennifer Kirkland, and Jeff Waldridge, and the whole team there who comes out, like Cynthia and Donnie and all these great people come out and help out and stuff. And they really do a good job. And the thing is a lot of these locations, depending on size and everything, we want this experience and the connection and the groups to be, specifically small enough where we can do these events. So it depends on the location. So some locations, the groups are much smaller. So yes, Penhurst was sold out for a while now. I think you can still, I don't know how they set up, but you can still get they call it general admission or whatever, and you can come out and just hang out for that stuff. And I'll be doing this whole meet and greet thing, and then we do a Q&A and we talk, kind of like we're talking now. This is what it is. It's not like this whole I hate doing the Q&As where it's getting a podium and the microphone and I'm not
spotlight.
that guy, I'm super hyper, so as you can tell, so we get ADD, so I'm I just get up and we walk around, we talk to everybody, and we have the conversation turns into this one big, all of us in a room, and we're just all theorizing about life. It's actually really interesting. I love hearing people's thoughts. So it's one of those Q&A sessions with me. And then we investigate, which I absolutely love, because then, it's cool to go back to some of these locations where I never had the opportunity to go in this room or this building or do certain things that I wanted to do before or had enough time to do before. So it's been a lot of fun, and a lot of people are having great experiences. So yeah, Penhurst sold out, and then Virginia City that whole weekend, which is going to be amazing because we have the Washoe Club, Piper's Opera House. We added 2 more locations. You can see it on our website there and our Facebook page, but that one, there's still some spots left, but that one's going pretty quick.
Wow.
And then we just announced the Stanley Hotel, too, the other day for next year.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is absolutely awesome. Everybody, you can check out Nick's upcoming tours at nickgrofftour.com. Catch him on Twitter, @NickGroff, and pick up his book, Chasing Spirits, at Barnes & Noble or on Amazon, and visit his gym website, drivehealthandfitness.com. This is amazing stuff coming from an amazing man. Thank you so much, Nick, and we hope to have you back on the show again soon.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys, and I appreciate all the support, Lucy. You've been awesome over the years, and hope to see you guys at events soon so we can communicate with you on the side. It would be fun.
I think I may do the Stanley.
You around again.
Yeah, if you want to come to Stanley, let me know. Love to have you guys. And if you're in New York, right, Anthony? If you come, you guys aren't too far from. Well, you're up in Chicago. If you want to come down to Penhurst, just let me know. Just email me on Facebook, whatever. But I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon, and really appreciate everybody else that's listening. I know people are listening from all over the world right now, which is kind of cool. I get to talk to people in Australia and Germany. So thank you to all the people that are listening.
Absolutely,
we'll be in touch, Nick.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy.
So
get some rest at least. Try and relax, please.
Yeah, I'll relax when it's my time, man. No sleep. All right, guys.
All right, Nick.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That man got too much energy. I tell people all the time, when they're like that, bottle it up and sell it. You'll be a millionaire.
He's just awesome. He is absolutely awesome. I mean, and he really is. He's for real. I mean, what he doesn't change. I mean, we've investigated with him a couple times, and he is exactly what you hear and what you see on TV. That's him. There's no fake persona, nothing like that. And he's very, very serious about what he's doing. In fact, my first real EVP that I ever got was with Nick in Mansfield all those years ago. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah, I would even say he's even more passionate in person doing these Nick Groff tours. Well, I haven't been on the Nick Groff tour, but we've been with him at other locations doing investigations on other con-cons and stuff. And I would say he's even more passionate when he's with the group, or if it's a one-on-one. I got actually the opportunity to do a one-on-one with him and the other guys at Eastern State Penitentiary, and I got to see how they worked and how they acted without having a whole crowd around. And I have to say, Nick is the same, but I think he's even more passionate. He's like the leader. He was the leader of the pack, directing it all. He made sure that everyone heard. If he got an EVP on his recorder, he made sure that everyone heard it. Whoever was with him and around him made sure that everybody heard it, and was able to sort of absorb that moment at that time. He may be hyper, but he wasn't that way on an investigation. He sort of allows you to breathe it in and understand it before you move forward to either another spot in the room or whatever. He's just really professional when it came to investigating, and really personable, I have to say.
Well, he's professional, but you can see the excitement when you talk to him. Because one of the last times that I did talk to him one-on-one, I had to ask him about the Linda Vista experience. And just seeing the look in his eyes, I mean, this really did affect him. This was a while after it happened. And I wanted, part of me, I wanted to look in his eyes when he talked about it. And just the whole description, everything that he was feeling, the way he talked about it. This man is really passionate about what he does. And that experience, I really felt like that really affected him. I mean, it really made me want to go to Linda Vista before they switched it over to old age homes.
Well, it's funny how when we were talking to him and he started to explain about how he sort of breaks things down and goes a little bit deeper and goes off on weird tangents. Does that sound familiar to you, Lucy?
Oh, God, does it sound familiar?
Yes, that's exactly like me. I do the same thing because I tend to, sort of huddle with my arms every single type of theory that there could possibly be out there. And that's how I break things down. When you say break things down, usually you mean into smaller pieces. But when you do smaller pieces, you have a whole pile of stuff. And in my head, I have a whole pile of stuff when I'm breaking down a certain fact about something paranormal. I'll break it down into a million pieces, and I will then research and investigate all of those different types of theories and opinions or statements, whatever it is. That's exactly like I am, and how I, how my mind works. So it's amazing and sort of comforting to hear that I'm not the only one that does that, because instead of you making fun of me, at least now I know Nick does that as well.
Well, you know what? One thing that I found was really interesting that he just said when he talked about the experience at Bobby Mackey going back. And we've been there a couple times, and it's exactly how he said. You can go there, and our first experience was pretty negative. The second experience was completely different. It was peaceful. It was, in fact, to quote you, you said it was almost boring because it was so peaceful. But I like what he said, that he went back in and he was a little bit more polite. And I think that does make a difference, regardless of what location that you go to. I think that how you approach the investigation makes a big difference. It seems like when you go in and you're demanding that you get a response, or you demand something, you're going to get negative, or you're not going to get anything at all. But if you be a little bit, if you're polite, if you talk, if you converse, I mean, you're figuring this is a person who's no different, obviously, on the other side than what they were when they were alive. It does make a difference. I mean, someone comes into your home and they start saying, well, I demand you tell me all about this. You're going to say, hey, get the hell out of here, or you're going to kick them out. It makes perfect sense. And I'm glad to hear him say that because, again, like I feel your attitude and your intent makes all the difference when you investigate. So I was glad to hear that.
Yeah, we always have said that. It all boils down to intention. And that's sort of the way that we operate. You know, we walk into a location and we have a conversation. We introduce ourselves, you know. Yes, just as Nick said, you know, if there are negative entities or if, you know, they're oppressing you or they're scratching you or they're hitting you, whatever it is, you know, then you can react back in that same way. It's sort of a defense mechanism a little bit, you know. You're going to react the same way of how you are receiving things. But I think to first walk into a location, you need to be civil. You need to have an air of politeness to you because you are walking into someone else's domain, number one. Regardless if you think spirits are real or not, you're walking into another domain that does not belong to you. And you should have the mindset that first it should be open enough that you are able to accept anything, not open so much that you will accept everything, meaning you will not accept the negativity. But also, too, as a communication tool and air of professionalism, you need to speak with a good demeanor, with intellectual words, understand who you are speaking to, and as if you were walking into a friend's home and you're meeting them for an afternoon lunch or whatever it is. Have that type of conversation first. Feel out whoever is there. I agree totally with what Nick says, and it does boil down to intention. They can read everything about you, whether or not you're faking it. They can tell that too. If you have this anger in you for whatever, and you've got this energy that you want to just curse the hell out of them, but you're going to walk in there and say, "Hello, how are you? Is there anybody here?" Believe me, they know what that intention is in the back of your brain. They know what your intentions are, and they will choose to speak to you or not. So I agree totally with Nick.
One thing I want to ask you, Nick talked about the possession, how he felt at Moon River Brewery. And when we went to Pennhurst, okay, you had that incident where you kind of like, I don't know how else to describe it. It was kind of like you were possessed, where for a moment there, you kind of were like going off on your own, or it was kind of like weird that you were walking in circles. The way he described the possession, is that how you felt? I mean, were you still conscious of what was going on, or what happened?
No, it was exactly the way that Nick was describing it. It was almost as if it was like a blackout. I could feel and understand where I was, but if you can understand what I'm trying to say is I wasn't there. It didn't feel I wasn't there, and what had happened to me at Pennhurst was at that moment, and again, I don't think it was anything negative. I attested this to on air when we were talking about it, that I didn't feel anything negative from that experience. What I felt was that the residents of Pennhurst were trying to allow me or make me feel the way that they had felt when they were alive, or maybe somehow their energies were passing through mine, and I got a glimpse into what their reality was, or maybe it currently is, I don't know, but I got the feeling that of all of that depression, that helplessness, that feeling of alone and abandonment, and all of that, that's what I was feeling. And what it did was, I guess, create a trance for me where I didn't black out. Obviously, I was still standing there. I was sort of teetering back and forth a little bit. But I knew where I was, but it was sort of like I was in the back of myself, not out of body, but I was in the back of myself, and whatever it was in the front, portraying those feelings and thoughts and expressions. And that's what I was feeling at that moment. So I was sort of trying to feel, I wasn't fighting it. And I think I wanted to feel what it was. And it wasn't until after a while it sort of subsided, or, they felt the completeness of allowing me to feel whatever it is that they felt, and then moved on and moved away, and then I snapped out of it. And it's exactly what Nick was talking about. I was shaking my head up and down as he was describing it.
Right. Yeah, no, I thought that was interesting because I can't really say that it's ever happened to me, but I've witnessed it, with you, and it's just really fascinating to me. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of scary. I'm not afraid of it happening to myself, but I do get scared for you or for others. I mean, I don't want to see anything negative happen, and I guess it is. I mean, you have to have the right mindset when you first start, that that you're aware of yourself and where you're at and what you're going to do. I think if you have that, then the chances of something really negative happening will not happen. But I think if you go into a place and you have no clue and you just open yourself up to everything, you open yourself up to a lot of negative. Like Nick said, we don't know who we're dealing with. We've said it before. You don't know who you're talking to. The whole paranormal investigation thing is way more intense and serious than I think some people think it is. And it's not a game. It's not a hobby. Well, it's a hobby, but it's not something to be taken lightly. And I'm really glad that there's people out there like Nick, like you, that have their feet on the ground and can help others understand what can happen.
Well, I think everyone needs to understand, if you are going to walk into a location that is haunted and you are going to do what an investigator does in a haunted location, then you have to understand that things like that can happen, either to yourself or to someone else. And you really have to sort of play the part a little bit and understand that if it does happen either to yourself or to someone else, that you have to go through the protocols of what you should be doing, or what you can do, and what you really can't do, and understanding where your limitations are in something like that. And obviously, you couldn't have done anything for me other than sort of stand next to me, if anything, and if I fell, and make sure I didn't crack my head open, because you really can't do anything on that spiritual energy level at all. There's nothing that you can do. There really isn't anything. So I understand the feeling of helplessness of wanting to do something, but you really can't. And I can't, negate you for not doing anything, because obviously you can't. But I think if you are going to go into a location, you got to understand that those things are going to happen. And so before you walk into a location, either if it's research or I personally don't think it's the research, but I think it's more of knowing your inner self and knowing your inner intuition of how things operate, and I put that in air quotes, in the spiritual world, in the spiritual realm. Try and, in your own mind, try and make sense of how you would react in a situation like that, what you think you would do. Maybe there's, if something happens to you, maybe there is a safe word that if you're able to say and your friends around you know what that word is, if you all have this one safe word, whatever it is, and you muster up the energy enough to say it, they'll understand what's going on. I don't know if that can happen, but here's just a list of things that you can try and do at least. At least you've got a guide for yourself so that you walk in. And so if you don't do any of that and you walk in, you yourself, either if it's happening to someone else or if it's happening to you, may freak out completely, and it may damage you mentally, I think, and create something that you are not ready to either understand or to deal with in general. And so you need to go through a lot of these things before you walk into a location. Like you said, it's not something to take lightly, and it's not something for fun. Yes, it can be a fun aspect, and it is exciting and exhilarating to do this at a location and to be an investigator, but it needs to be taken seriously. You have to understand that this is not a game, that you are dealing with things that you have no idea what the counter result can be. And so to take the precautions that are necessary, you need to go through these lists of protocols and these lists of things that at least everybody in your group or, you know, your friend that you're with understands. Here's what we could do. It's sort of like the Bible of going to an investigation. I hate to use that word, the Bible, but here's your guidebook, you know, your own guidebook. Yeah, it's your handbook of investigating. Create your own. Everybody is different, number one, and no theories are wrong. So put it out there for yourself to try and see if you can make sense and at least adhere to it. Try it. At least you've made an effort that way. You've gotten down the idea and the understanding like something like this can happen so that you're more aware of it when you're walking into a location.
Well, another thing that I'm so glad to hear that Nick used sage. I actually used it for the first time after we went to Saddamsville, and that
it's
was
funny because I saged tonight before we went on air.
That's the first time that I had used it, and the way he described it, I mean, it does. I mean, there's something about it that just seems to, like, clear the air. And, you know, if there's negative around, I don't know, for me, it just seems to, like, lift everything up, and it's almost like a clearing. It helps me clear myself, you know, especially when there's, like, a lot of negative going on. So I was really glad to hear that, you know, he used that, especially going back to Mackey's, because I was really curious about that, because he did say that, you know, his wife didn't want him to go back there, and just watching, you know, I went back and I watched a couple of the episodes, and just seeing how they reacted when they were in there, I was really curious about going back into that spot. I know for us, going back to Mackey's was almost the same thing. It was kind of like closure. The things that happened the first time, kind of like for me, I had to go back and see exactly what was what. And I'm telling you, the second experience was so completely different. And it was really, for me, pleasurable. It was nice. It was amazing. But because of some of the things that we did, I think the way we approached it the second time was completely different. I made an offering to the spirits, to the Cherokee spirits that are there, and I asked them permission if we could go in. And I think that really did make a difference. So again, intent and how you approach things.
You know, we obviously had a list of, 100 questions here for Nick to ask him, and you know, we knew that he was going to have limited time because of his crazy busy schedule that he had, but we were hoping for a miracle maybe, and that he would say, okay, I could be on for a full 2 hours. And so, you know, we had a whole bunch of questions to get to, and there was a bunch of things that were really of interest that, you know, we've learned through either hearing other interviews or reading more up on his life and ventures and, you know, his professional career, his personal life, all that other stuff, you know, and you know, I don't know if it's well known or not. I mean, if you are a diehard Nick Groff fan, you probably know this, but Nick did have a near-death experience when he was younger. And, you know, one of the things that we wanted to ask him was that in the new show, Ghost Stalkers, you know, Chad and John both had, I believe both had near-death experiences.
Yeah, they both did.
And Nick himself had one. And so we wanted to sort of relate the question and ask him, does having a near-death experience lead you to something like this, or maybe open up more doors for you as a paranormal investigator because you have somehow, you know, at least visited the other side a little bit? Does it do anything? Does it, because it seems as though Nick has a, I believe, just watching the television shows and seeing him in person and investigating with him in person, it seems as though Nick has this sort of highway straight to the spiritual world. And it's clear. There's no traffic at all. It just seems that he's got this really good connection, and they communicate very well with him. He has this sort of instant relationship when he walks into a location, and it seems as though they gravitate to him. And, you know, I've watched some of his YouTube videos recently, and more times his name is being said on EVPs at a lot of locations. And so it just opens up the question, does having a near-death experience lend you, I guess, like a backstage pass to the spiritual world? Does it allow you first in line to speak? Is that what sort of Nick's life is, or is that like that for everyone else as well? I just thought it would be an interesting question to ask him, and I wish we had that chance and opportunity to.
Well, that was kind of like one of the other questions that I wanted to ask. You know, with the EVPs, I mean, his name comes up a lot, even in places where he's not at. I mean, is it kind of like, has he developed kind of like a relationship of some sort with the other side? I mean, his name does come up. So is that part of the near-death experience? Is it part of his passion? You know, there's so many things that we wanted to ask and questions that we had from people and stuff. But, you know, like I said, one thing that was good about it, even though we only had a short time with him, we did get kind of a confirmation of Nick coming back to television.
Absolutely. And, you know, I heard that, too, on another interview recently, and actually saw it posted that he was going to reveal it. I think, if I remember correctly, it was said that he was going to reveal it probably within the next month, and this was back in May, mid-May or something, or end of May. And I was just hoping, you know, it's June 26th, I was thinking, well, maybe he'll reveal it. This will be the time and the show that he does it, but I guess not. Yeah, I can't wait to see what other venture he's got coming on. And he mentioned something about other television shows as well that he's doing. So filming other episodes or other shows. So and I think he said some paranormal and some are not. So he's got an interesting career ahead of himself and a busy one as well.
That's why his time was limited tonight, because he's actually filming something tonight. They've been working on it nonstop for, I think, the past week. So that's why we only had a limited amount of time. He took a break from filming to come talk to us, and we're extremely grateful for that.
Absolutely. So, yeah, again, thank you, Nick, if you are still listening. If you are going to listen to the show afterwards, thank you so much for coming on. We really, truly appreciate taking just a little bit of time out of your hugely impactful, busy schedule to come and talk to us. And, we are going to be at Newcastle, Pennsylvania next week, and Pennhurst is the week after. And I'm still out on vacation, so I may drive over. Who knows? I don't know.
I hate you.
Maybe I'll email him and tell him. Maybe I'll just pop over and stop by, and maybe I can do a one-on-one interview, video interview, or something like that. I don't know.
That'd be cool. But actually, no, he mentioned Stanley Hotel. That's next year, so that's something that might be interesting because
Colorado.
I did have an excellent experience in the Stephen King room, and I didn't have a recorder. This time, I'm going to have a recorder.
That was one of the early locations that we went to, sort of in our inaugural venture in the paranormal. And so, I would love to go back there because there are things that I know now, not just as an investigator, but more of, a little bit more of what the paranormal could possibly be more about, if that makes sense. So it would be interesting, and I would love to go back there with the mindset that I have now, as opposed to how it was earlier, many moons ago, to see, if anything is different, if anything has changed. I remember we had really great experiences there, and it was an exhaustive investigation. I think it was one of the longest ones that we went on because we just kept getting so many great EVPs and reactions and noises and everything in all of the different rooms. But you know me, I tend to not like to go to these group outings because contamination and all that other stuff. So if it's a little bit of a smaller group, who knows? Maybe we will.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting, and that is something that I think about. Like, you know, some of the places that we went early, it is. I would be curious to see what it's like now with all the experiences that we've had and all the things that we've learned. I mean, we're still learning. Every investigation we go on, we learn something else. It would be interesting to see, with the experience that we have now, what it would be like to go back to some place like that.
What was your first location that you ever went to?
Eastern State.
Eastern State was your first ever
That was
location.
The first ever investigation I ever did. And I got touched the very first investigation down in the hole.
Yeah, I remember
I
that.
remember. And that was the first thing. And I really didn't know what I was doing. So I don't even remember if I had an audio recorder or not. So I don't remember having any EVPs or anything like that, but that will stick out in my mind forever. It was the first time that I got touched. And like I said, my first EVP that I ever gotten, we had split off it with groups. It was with the GAC people, and I was in a group with Nick, and it was a smaller group, and it was in the bathroom where they had all the toilets and the toilet room. And to tell you the truth, I didn't even know I had the EVP. Nick was standing there. We both had recorders. Nick had his going. I had mine going. And he let me ask questions and that. And then we played him back. Well, he played his back. There was nothing. We played mine back, and I really didn't hear anything. He goes, wait, listen, play it again. And sure enough, I had a voice there. It was my first EVP that I had captured, but I don't think I had the experience enough, the trained ear enough to really listen for it. And he was the one that pointed it out to me. So that, to me, was amazing. That was something that I learned. And like I said, every time we go to a different location, I still learn things. I still learn something. There's something new every time we go. I found it interesting that he talked about negative, you know, how he fears the negative energies, and you feel like the dark and the light. I will tell you, when we went to Stomsville the last time, this last investigation, was the first time that I really felt that negative versus good. And it wasn't, I wasn't afraid of it. I can't really say that I get afraid of anything anymore when I go on an investigation. I'm cautious, and I respect it, but I'm not really afraid of it. This was the first time that I felt that negative energy and kind of like positive energy. And this last time, it felt like the negative was way more overwhelming than the positive. From the first time that we went there, I hadn't felt that. It felt lighter. This time, though, I really felt more negative, and I felt like it was centered around you. I didn't feel it for me, but I felt it more like directed at you. And to me, that was unusual. That was really unusual. It was the first time I ever said to myself, I don't like this place. And I've never said that about location before. But at one point, I remember saying to myself, I don't like this place.
Well, that's what it goes back to what Nick was talking about when I asked him the question about if he's got any advice for, you know, or tips for people who are going to investigate, and you know, maybe it was something that he wished he had, you know, before going out. And one of them that he talked about was, you know, listening to your body. Make sure that you listen to your body. And you know, you as you were, you know, in Saddamsville, and as you were just talking about, you were listening to your body because your body was telling you, your feelings, your own energy was changing because something was interfering with it, something was changing it, and you listened to it. And what that did was make you a little bit more cautious. Well, it made me as well more cautious because I felt it the same way as soon as I opened up that basement door at Saddamsville. So I don't know about you, but there are triggers on my body that I get, and I don't know if whoever's listening now, if you guys get this as well, but I remember the first time when I started to feel this, I was at Cooperstown, New York, in Otesaga Hotel, which has been featured, I think, on Ghost Hunters. I think it was one of their episodes there. And it was the first time that I had ever felt a tingling, I guess you can call it, down my spine, straight down my spine. It was a tingling across the shoulder blades and then straight down from top to bottom of my spine. And soon after that feeling, something negative had happened. My camera was knocked out of my hand. When I was in one of the rooms, I can't remember the number, but I was in one of the rooms, and I remember it vividly. I was facing the bed, and I had my camera in my left hand, and we were talking, and I felt that, and I said, guys, I'm starting to feel something. I don't know what this is. And soon right after that, my camera was knocked out of my hand. I since then have felt those same feelings that tingle down my spine in several different locations. So it's almost as if it's like a red light, like a warning signal for me, which is weird. You know, I don't know if it's something that they're doing that is creating that, or is it my body reacting to the energy and the surrounding energy that it's picking up and it's feeling that? You know, everybody talks about, I'm getting goosebumps right now, I'm getting goosebumps. That's one of the things that happens to you as well. You know, you start to feel things, sort of static electricity or whatever you want to call it, in and around the surrounding of where you're at. And you need to listen to your body, because your body is the best tool that you can have when you're an investigator, number one. But number two, it actually will help you in your investigation. And I think that understanding the way that your body operates and functions should be the first thing that you do, the first research you should ever do, whether that's psychology or, psychoanalytical, whatever it is. Read some papers or articles or whatever it is about that. And maybe you may get a better understanding of yourself, to understand maybe you have a trigger, an inner trigger signal that will pop up. Or if you go back and recant on your past investigations and where you know that there were things that happened, was there anything that happened right before that to you? What were you feeling? What does that feeling feel like? And if you can recreate that feeling to try and, I guess the only word I can say is practice that feeling. So if you practice getting that feeling all the time, you'll be able to pick it up the next time you're out of location and understand when that happens that something is either about to happen or there's something shifting and changing in the environment that you're around. And that's a good precaution to have. It's a good warning for you yourself. But, we've always had that thought, and it's not something that you get right away. It's something you pick up, and like I said, I didn't know what the heck that was when I was at the Otesaga Hotel, but since then I've seen the repeating nature of it, and I was able to basically put it together and understand, okay, this is something that happens right before, energies shift, or spirits come in, or spirits leave, whatever it is, or there's negative, or there's positive, whatever it is. I don't know. I don't have that answer. But at least I've got something that I know that warns me, so that is sort of a protection for myself.
Well, see, mine is my hair stands up. Never fails. It stands up. And then the other thing that I've kind of like noticed is getting stronger and stronger. You know how you feel like you could be sitting in a room and someone walks in and you just happen to know that they're there. I don't know if it's like the pressure or whatever. That, for me, is getting stronger and stronger every time we go to a location. Maybe I'm becoming more aware of it. Maybe I'm just becoming more in tune with it. But it's getting to the point where when there's something near me, I just know it. It's like I can feel it. I can feel it as if it was solid mass. And if it's in back of me, if it's to the side of me, or if it's in front of me, I am getting more and more aware that that's happening each time. And in the beginning, I know I kind of felt it, but I would always discount it. Now as I go along, I'm learning to address it, to look at it. Before I would just kind of like, oh, that's nothing. Now I'm actually stopping myself inside and kind of like just stopping and feeling it. And I've always had this, where thoughts come into my head and I almost like I can hear, well, I can't really hear them, but I can have sentences go through my head, or I can have maybe a word or something, and that's becoming more and more, where it's like, I want to say, I haven't gotten to the point where I can really like answer them, but I'm hearing them inside my head. I'm not hearing them audibly, but I am definitely I'm hearing them in my head, and it's almost like I can hear their thoughts, or it's weird. But I'm trying to listen more. I'm trying to let it come in, where I think in the beginning I was just kind of like, that's just me. And one experience that I really did have, it was here in Chicago, and I went to a seance. And it was the first time that I really ever let those thoughts, and it was kind of like a story that just came into my head, and I just started saying what was coming into my head. And the research afterwards kind of like it validated what I was hearing. I mean, this place where we went, it's the Irish. It's called the Irish Legend. It's a restaurant on Willowbrook, and it used to be a speakeasy. It used to be a whorehouse. There were a lot of negative things. Abortions happened there. There were girls were beat up regularly. I connected with one of the females that had been there, and it was just like her whole story just came out. I could feel how much she hated the pimps and how much she hated the customers, but yet she was, and all this came through, and that was the first time that I actually ever let myself open up to it. Now, I do know that I think I opened up too much, because it was almost like the day afterwards, I was miserable. I called you, and I called the guy who ran the seance, because I couldn't let go of this person. It was like she was hanging on, and it was almost like I had to literally sit down and say, you know what, you are not wanted. You've got to go. So I know what the attachment is like, but I don't know what possession is like. I don't know if it's the same thing. I don't know if it's different. I haven't experienced it since then, but as we go along, I'm listening to the voices or the thoughts that are coming into my head, and I honestly think that I'm making a better connection. I'm really curious, though, since you talked about Linda Vista and hospitals and, the experience that someone else had seeing a person come out of the room and wave. I mean, hospitals, we're going to Hillview Manor, I'm really curious. I really, really cannot wait to get there. I'm not getting any negative feelings about it, but I am getting feelings of activity. I think and I hope that it's going to be active, because I'm kind of feeling this already. I know once we start talking about a location, once we make a decision to go somewhere, usually I connect ahead of time. And this time it's getting stronger. I will say, before we went to Sedansville, I did have some apprehension. I was feeling apprehensive about that location. This one, I'm not apprehensive. I'm more excited to go to this one, because I really do believe that there are people there that want to connect. So I'm excited. I can't wait, And, hospitals, of course, there's death there. There's it was a poorhouse. All of these things, there's a lot of emotion that's still there. That's what I think I connect with a lot. I mean, I've had some experiences where the emotions, where they're sad and there's some, I cry. It just makes me cry. This one, I'm excited. I'm not feeling negative. I'm feeling a little bit of sadness, but I really think this is going to be good. And I'm really excited. I really want to do the Ouija the night before. I really, really want to do that.
Well,
I can't wait.
Before I talk about Hillview Manor, I wanted to get back to the sort of sensing and the feelings that you get, and it's so important that we understand that within ourselves. The other, it sort of works in the opposite way, and so we've said this many times. You probably have heard us either at live investigations or maybe, I don't know if it's ever been on a recording that we've had and that we've shared with everybody, but Lucy and I always have that feeling, and I'm sure you guys out there who are listening know this as well, that you can sense when there's calm and there's peace, when either the spirits have left the room or the mood has changed maybe. You get that overwhelming sense of peace and calmness and stillness. And I truly believe that, Lucy makes fun of me and says that I'm the techie person, and I have every gadget imaginable as an investigator. But, yes, I do, but that's only because I like to validate the experiences that I have just for myself. I like to validate them. But I believe 100% more into sort of creating that that oneness with yourself and understanding your body and your feelings. And, Art Davenport in chat just had written before about how he sort of takes, these 1-hour solos and gives himself some sort of time to understand and get a better feeling of the senses. And, if you've watched our live investigations, it may not seem that way because we're constantly talking, we're constantly moving, but that's only because it's, we want you to see either everything that we're at or we want to try and see if we capture communication or whatever. But in many of the locations that Lucy and I go, if not all of the locations that we go to, there are moments in time where we settle in a spot and we let that room or the building or the location talk to us, and we don't say a word. We sort of allow ourselves to not sort of get deeper in thought, which it's sort of like washing your thoughts away and opening yourself up more to a point where you can allow things in, but you've got a filter, if that makes sense, so that you don't allow the negative to come through. But we get to a point where we just either sit still or stand still or whatever it is, and we don't say anything. We allow the room to speak to us, meaning we try and see if the feelings in our body and connection with our mind and our consciousness can communicate with the room itself and lend itself for the spirits there to allow them to get acquainted with us. If that sounds weird or crazy, but that's sort of what we tend to do a little, most of the time, but we do it a little bit within the location and to get a better feeling of our own senses, but then get a feeling of the sense of the location itself. You really can feel and communicate more with a location without speaking than you can with speaking. I believe that 100%. There's, if you just walk into a location, not say a word and walk out and that's the end of the night, that doesn't help you. I'm not getting to that point. But what I'm saying is at least allowing yourself, as Art Davenport had said, they allow themselves an hour to sort of get acquainted with their senses. Maybe do that in a location. Maybe it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and allow that room or that location to talk to you. You'll find out that you'll have amazing results, and who knows what could happen during that time that could lend yourself to understand things, maybe see visions of things, whatever it is. You're getting in touch with your sort of empath, your sensitive areas of your body and of your mind that may help you in the future.
Well, I am an empath, so a lot of times when we get to these places, I can feel it the minute I walk in the door. I can feel these things, and sometimes, like you said, you do have to know yourself. You do have to know your limits. It's almost like I think of it as keeping one foot on the ground and letting the other foot move forward a little bit. You still have to keep that one foot on the ground because you don't know what you're going to encounter. If there's something negative, you don't want that negative to overtake you. But you have to be open enough to let the location kind of like just settle. You know, you figure you're going into the location, you're bringing in your equipment, you're setting things up, you're making waves in the atmosphere. Okay, you have to kind of let it settle down a little bit afterwards. You know, they're checking you out. You're busy running around, you know, trying to set everything up, and you're trying to look at the location, and you've done your walkthrough. But then there's almost like this period afterwards where both you and the location kind of have to settle down a little bit. And then I think that's when the true communication really starts. Now, granted, you can walk into a location and something may happen right away, you know, but I think in most cases you do have to have that little bit of quiet time, even if you walk into a new room, just to get the feeling of what's there or what isn't there. You know, like you said, there are times when you can go into a room, you feel the energy, and then all of a sudden it just goes dead. It's there's nothing. You pretty much can tell when a spirit has left the area. You can tell when a spirit wants to communicate. You can tell when the energy wants to interact or doesn't want to have anything to do with you at all. I mean, it's happened in so many locations where we've been where, you know, at one point there was activity or we could sense it or we could feel it, and then all of a sudden it was like, you know what, maybe they got bored with us, maybe they got tired of us, and boom, nothing. You don't feel a thing. So you move on to a different location. But it happens. It happens in every single location. I think there's spots that where maybe there's more activity, and then there's spots where there's none. And then there could be locations where people say that they've got all this activity, but yet you go there and nothing happens. It doesn't mean that there's anything there. It just happens to be maybe they don't feel like talking to you. Maybe they don't feel like talking to anybody. You know, it's different every single time. And I think that's part of the excitement. You never know what you're going to find. You never know what's going to happen. And that's part of the excitement. I know it is for me.
It's funny, after talking with Nick, we get into such a deep paranormal discussion about investigating and feelings and everything. It's kind of funny that, you know.
Told you,
it leads to this.
He's one of my paranormal mentors.
Well, as Lucy was alluding to before, you know, next week, Friday, July 3rd, we're going to do a live investigation at Hillview Manor in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which we'll be promoting that this week. And obviously we're going to, once again, do a live YouTube video stream. I'm not sure if we're going to do simulcast on Blog Talk Radio. We're not sure. What we'll do is we'll probably put up both and just leave it there so you can choose. But I'm sure people are going to want to choose to watch the video instead of just listening to it. But you're more than welcome to do both. So we'll be at the location. Not sure if we're going to be able to move around while doing live video. Obviously, you know, I have not been to Hillview. This is the first time Lucy and I have been there. So as soon as we get there, you know, and after we sort of tour the place, we're going to try and see what's the best spot that we can do this that gives at least more than 2 vantage points so that we can move the camera around and be able to film. And obviously we'll try and get to the, you know, the most active place in there. And you know, a lot of people have already suggested where we should go, and you know, we've seen some videos and where there's been a lot of activity, so we kind of have an idea of where we may do it. But once we get there, we'll have to figure it out. Plus, we also figure out the electric part of it. You know, we got to plug in things and stuff like that. So, you know, all of that sort of will, you know, we have to take into consideration when we're trying to figure this out. But it's going to be an amazing night, and we're going to start it at the same time. It'll be 10 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll on YouTube we'll probably go for 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, depending on how the activity is going. If it's on Blog Talk, it'll be for 2 hours straight, and then that'll be it. And yeah, so we'll be doing that on Friday, but Thursday, Lucy and I are going to be meeting up in Pennsylvania the night before actually. And so what we're going to try and do is, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this live. It all depends on New York City traffic and me getting the heck out of the city and how long it's going to take me to get to Newcastle, Pennsylvania. But if I get to Newcastle, Pennsylvania in a decent amount of time, we may do a live YouTube video of Lucy and I doing the Ouija board on the new Ouija board that I made and filming that on YouTube. If not, we're going to film it late and we'll just post it up on YouTube so you can probably watch it either early Friday morning or at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever you want to watch it at your leisure. So look for that. We definitely do want to do it because we're not allowed to bring the Ouija board to Hillview Manor, and I really want to try this out and try the new board out. And so we'll try and do that. Either it's going to be at the hotel that we're staying at, or if I get there early enough, I know, Lucy, I've been doing a little bit of research. There are some places that we could go that maybe we may do it, and it may be a remote location. So I don't know. I've got these high hopes, but I don't know if that'll happen. But we'll see. It'll be an interesting night on Thursday, but then also watch us on Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. And if you check our Facebook page, Paranormal Review Radio, this weekend, starting this weekend, we'll start to promote. So you'll have all the links and where to go and what to click on.
Yeah, and as usual, well, if we do Blog Talk, you can call in, and participate in an EVP session. If you've got questions, I've been trying not to watch the videos of people's experiences because I kind of want to go in there and just see what it is for myself. I want to do that. I feel like sometimes when I watch other people's videos that, I have this preconceived idea of what's supposed to happen. And I don't want to do that. I want to just go in there and experience it for what it is. I want to see what comes up to me. We have a few things that we want to do, that we're going to wear and bring with us, some trigger objects, and then of course we've got all the other stuff that we use. But I'm excited about this one. It's a new location, never been to it. Some of the research that I found, there's some things that I really didn't know about it. I don't know if you came across this, that there's a cemetery in back of it with a lot of unmarked graves. So that I'm interested in. I'm sure that's got to be sad. And you just told me tonight, it's the firecracker capital of the world, of the United States.
Yeah, Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
July weekend.
Firecracker capital of the world, and so we're going to be there on July 3rd. So I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, that nobody decides to start, doing the bottle rockets and all of the fireworks the night before on Friday, July 3rd, while we're investigating, because that'll sort of contaminate things. But maybe we're so remote that it may not, we may not hear it as much.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, we've been very lucky so far. Every location that we go, we get some good results. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. And I expect that we do get something.
If it also goes back to the research. And so Lucy and I have been doing research, and I'm going to be doing much more of it this weekend now that I'm able to concentrate it on my days off, that I'm going to sort of dig into it a lot more. And there's interesting because I found some old newspaper clippings and articles from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. And, they talked about there's this old, I think they called it Old City, and it was the sort of poor farm before Hillview Manor was the poor farm. And there's a couple of stories from there. And then when Hillview Manor, which wasn't named Hillview Manor, it was the poor farm, I think I forgot the county town name, but that's what it was called, Poor Farm. And some of the folks from that old Poor Farm were relocated and moved to this location, and that old Poor Farm was torn down, and I think right now on the grounds of it is a I don't know if it's a high school or a middle school that's there. But you know, I'm starting to formulate a lot of the sort of, you know, documented evidence of stories, real stories, you know, patients' names and people's names and activities and actions that have happened. And so those things that we're going to be researching, we're going to be writing them down and calling upon while we're there. You know, it's always good to get names. It's always good to understand what had gone on. If you show an understanding and a familiarity with the history of the place, one of the things I believe is that spirits then will at least feel comfortable, or, you know, sort of say to themselves, oh shit, he knows about that. What? Okay, let's talk to him. And so that's the things that we tend to do. And so we'll go over that pretty much when right before, you know, we start to do the investigation. We'll give you guys a little bit more of a history of it next Friday night, and that's it. And then we'll just get right into the investigation and hope for the best. And like Lucy said, we'll be on Blog Talk as well as YouTube. And on Blog Talk, you can call in, and hopefully we'll have that opportunity to simulcast and do both. And if that's the case, then we'll certainly be taking callers. And what that means is your voice will be in Hillview Manor. We'll put you on speakerphone, and your voice will be able to talk along with us in the place. So it'll be like you're investigating, but you don't have to leave the comfort of your own home. And you can ask a question in your own voice to the spirits there, and hopefully they'll respond. We've gotten really great responses that way in the past when we've done it, so we encourage it for next week. So again, we'll give you all that information so that you understand it and you know, able to sort of bookmark it and put it on your calendar for next Friday night. Hopefully you guys are not busy then.
No, and then again, too, I mean, you know, with it being on Blog Talk and then being on YouTube, you know, you are an extra pair of eyes and ears. You know, if something happens that we miss, you know, you can hear it or maybe see it, let us know. I mean, the last YouTube video, we got that whistling sound that we didn't hear, but we went back and we listened to the video. It was there. So who knows? All I know is I just can't wait to get there. I really can't.
Yeah, and YouTube and blogtalkradio.com, well, it acts as a digital recorder. And so when it's archived and you're able to replay it again, it's like you can then be the investigator and analyze the evidence. You can see if you can hear voices that were not there before, or voices maybe that you missed. You know, they may pop up on Blog Talk Radio as it's recording it. It acts as a same thing as a digital recorder, so it's the same thing. So, you know, even after the show, you can go back and listen to it again. And, you know, if you guys hear anything, we'd love you guys to send us an email and let us know. But we're certainly going to, you know, review it as well and see if we hear anything, along with all of the other equipment that we'll have that night.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be cool. One thing, I did watch the Ghost Adventures when they went to Hillview, and the one thing that I am kind of looking forward to, they got an EVP from one of the patients that was there, and he talked about who his favorite team was, and it was Pittsburgh. There's a hockey fan that seems to still be there. I love hockey. I am so ready to talk hockey with this person, so I'm hoping that's a connection.
Well, if he's not a Blackhawks fan, I'm surprised you're going to talk to him.
But I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's little things like that. I mean, you pick up something that might be familiar to one of them, and if you bring it up, and who knows, it just might be that opening of a conversation, and that's what I'm looking forward to. I want to have a conversation. I mean, I haven't been lucky enough to see an apparition yet, but if it happens, it happens. I know one of these days it will. But again, you know, how we've talked about it before, sometimes you want to see something or experience something so much that maybe you either block yourself or convince yourself that what isn't there really is there. So that, you know, the shows that we did on, you know, the pareidolia and that kind of stuck with me. So I want to be more discerning about what I'm experiencing. Like I said, I learn. I mean, every show we do, I learn something. And that's why I'm so grateful that we do this show, because it's helping me as I go along in my paranormal investigating. I mean, I'm learning something every single time, and I'm hoping that it does the same for anyone that listens. You know, we're not here to preach. We're not experts. We're students of the paranormal, and that's what this show does for me. I learn. So next week is going to be my opportunity to take what I've learned and actually put it to use.
All right, guys, so watch out for that next week. I do want to repeat again, thank you so much, Nick, for coming on the show tonight. Really do appreciate it. You are an awesome guy. And for everyone out there, go check out his website, nickgrofftour.com. You can see some upcoming events that he's got going on, and you can always go back and keep checking it because he's always updating it and adding new events and new haunted locations for you guys to sign up on. And you can always catch him on Twitter. You can catch him on Facebook. Where else? I'm not sure if there's any other spot, but he's all over the place. If anything, all you got to do is Google his name, Nick Groff, and a whole bunch of things will come up. So thank you so much, Nick, and we really do appreciate it, and hope, again, to have you back on the show. So, Lucy, why don't we get to the Fan of the Week?
Okay. This week, our Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week is Michael Yanacito of Arvada, Colorado. Michael, he posts on our page, he comments, some of his likes. He's into bodybuilding. He likes Final Fantasy VII, Pizza Hut, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Will Ferrell, and, of course, he likes Paranormal Review Radio. Thank you so much for being a fan, Michael, and congratulations.
It's funny, he almost even looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't want to say anything to piss him off. He's probably beat the crap out of me. But you guys will see his picture when we post it on Facebook. And it's, you know, it's funny that he likes Arnold Schwarzenegger because I actually just saw him on Wednesday. He came to my building, and I thought he was taller. He's sort of my height.
Don't say that.
Yeah, he's my height. He's my height, and he. I don't know if it was tanning and makeup, but he just looks like he's got a lot of work done. But very nice guy, very nice guy. So congratulations, Michael Yanacito. And don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week, all you got to do is just like us on Facebook or subscribe to us on YouTube at Paranormal Review Radio.
Well, there you have it, folks. Mr. Nick Groff. He is a truly nice guy, and we wish him much success in all of his endeavors. And if you get a chance to go on a Nick Groff tour event, please, you know, you really owe it to yourself to go. It's going to be an experience that you will never forget. But all of this talk of investigating is making me crazy. It's exactly 7 days until Anthony and I head off to our next investigation at Haunted Hillview Manor. I'm excited. What waits for us there? Join us next Friday night to listen and watch as we head into the dark. We'll be broadcasting live here on Blog Talk and streaming on YouTube. The fun will begin at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, so please join us for a night of fun and adventure. Now, one of the best things about it is being in contact with all of you in chat while you watch the investigation. All of you. You are all part of the team. So while sitting in the comfort of your own home, you're investigating. Don't forget, we'll be doing the Ouija session the night before. Hopefully it might be live, but we'll be filming it, and we'll post it later on. It's going to be a great investigation. We want to say thank you to all of the Paranormal Review Radio family for your support and your love. Many of you have been bringing others to the fold by sharing the links to the show, and we truly appreciate it. Thank you, Anthony, for being the best paranormal partner a girl could ask for. So, until next week from Hillview Manor, keep chasing those spirits and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.